Alright guys, in the last video we went ahead and created our UI. So we have our register page, our login page, and we also created the index page. So we're going to work on the user registration form first. So we want to be able to submit our form, we want to send it through some validation, and then ultimately create a user in our MongoDB database. Okay, we're using MongoJS as our ORM. So the first file that we're gonna work in the most is gonna be in routes users.js. Okay, this is where all the action is gonna happen. So we're going to add a couple things up here. We want to bring in MongoJS. Okay, we're gonna set that to require MongoJS. Alright, and then we can create a database instance that we can use. So call it DB, set it to MongoJS, and in here we need to put some kind of handler. I'm just going to say passport app, and then you want to specify the collections you want to work with. Okay, we're going to have one collection called users. Next we're going to bring in bcrypt, which is going to take care of encrypting the passwords. Okay, so we're going to set that to require, and we're using bcrypt.js. Okay, we also want to bring in passport, which takes care of all the authentication. So require, and we want to require passport. Now there's multiple strategies we can use with passport. We can use Facebook, Twitter, Google, but we're just going to keep it with a local database. Okay, so we will need to include a local strategy. So we're going to create a variable called local strategy, and we're going to set that to require, and we want to require passport local. Okay, passport local, and then dot strategy. Alright, so now what we need to do is set a post request for our register form. Okay, right here we have a get request. What I'll do is copy that, and then we'll just change this to post. And let's also add a comment here. We'll say register post. Get rid of this. Alright, so let's say console.log, and we'll say adding user. Okay, now what we need to do is go to our form, our register form, or register EJS, and up in the form tag we're going to add a couple attributes. We're going to say method equals post, and action is going to equal our route. So that's going to be /users/register. Alright, I'm just going to set this to HTML. Alright, so now that's going to go to users register. So it's going to go to that route we just created. So let's make sure that everything's saved, and let's pull up our command line. Okay, so I'm just going to fill this out with just some dummy content and click sign up. Let's see, that should have logged. Let's see, action/user/register. Okay, so that should go here, and then we should get a console log. And let's see. Yep, there we go, adding user. Okay, I must not have saved it. Alright, so what we want to do is obviously we need to grab the data that's submitted into the form. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to paste this in. So what we're doing is we're just getting the data with request.body. And then whatever the name is, and then I'm putting them into variables over here. Okay, now we want to set up some validation, and we're using Express Validator. So to we'll say validation, and then to run our validation we want to say request.checkBody, and then we can check each of our fields. So let's say name, And then the second parameter is going to be the message you want displayed. So we're going to say name field is required. Alright, and then we want to say dot, and then the rule we want, in this case it's going to be not empty. Alright, and I can pull up the documentation for Express Validator too. Alright, so you can see that what I'm doing is right here. We're doing request check body, and then we're using not empty. Alright. So name can't be empty. Email we also don't want to be. We don't want any of them to be empty. So let's go ahead and copy that. And this will be email. Now email also needs to have an email address validator, so we can change this here to is email. And then we'll change the message. We'll say please use a valid email address. Alright, so that takes care of that. And then also username shouldn't be empty. Okay, password. And then we also want the passwords to match, okay? Password and password 2. So we're going to change this to equals. And let's change this to password. Actually, this will be password 2. Passwords do not match, and then the field that we want it to equal is going to be request dot body dot password. Alright, so that looks good as far as validation goes. And then if we look over here, you'll see we need this right here, request validation errors. So let's paste that in. And we'll say check for errors. Okay, so if there's any errors, if any of these don't work or don't validate, then we're going to have some errors. So we're going to do an if, else. So we'll check for errors, and if there are any, then we want to re-render the page. So we'll say res.render. And we want to render register, but we also want to pass along a bunch of values. Okay, for one, we want to pass the errors, and then we also want to pass in whatever we have in the fields, because we don't want the fields to completely clear if we have an error. So let's send along the name, the email, the username, password, and password 2. Okay, so we'll send those, and then else, for now, we'll just say console log success. Alright, we'll save that. And actually, you know what I'm going to do is just put a console log here as well. We'll say form has errors. Alright, so let's go ahead and save it, and then we're going to pull that up. And let's just fill some of this out. I'm not going to do a matching password or a valid email. So if we say sign up and we look at our console, you'll see it says form has errors. Alright, if we do this right, we get success. Alright, now when the form has errors, we want to let the user know that, and we're sending along errors to the view, but we're not displaying it in the view. So let's go ahead and handle that. So we're going to go to views and then register, and let's go right above the form, and we're first going to check for errors, and we're going to use EJS. So we're going to say if locals.errors if locals.errors, then what we want to do is loop through the errors array, because it's going to be an array. So errors dot for each, and then in here we want a function. Okay, we're going to pass in error. And then in here we're going to put a div, give it a class of alert, and then alert danger, which is a bootstrap class. Okay, and then in here we're going to say error dot msg, just like that. So now the errors should display. So let's try it again. Whoops. And there we go. So now we have our errors inside of alerts. Now I want to push this down a little. So what I'm going to do, let's see, on the register page, let's just add reg page as a class, and same thing on login. And then I'm going to go to my style sheet and we'll say reg page and login page. I'm going to set padding top 40 pixels and padding bottom 40 pixels. Alright, so that looks good. Validation's working. Now notice that the form cleared, and we don't want that. We want whatever we put there to stay. So we are passing it along. We know that. If we look here, we're passing all those along. We just need to add them as values in our form. Alright, so we want to go to, let's go to the name field, and we'll go right here and say value. Okay, we're going to put a shorthand conditional in here. Let me just grab that real quick. Okay, so basically we're saying if there's a name, locals.name, then we want to display that. Okay, and name is coming from right here. Okay, that's whatever we pass in. So we want to do that to all of the fields. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, this whole value attribute, and we'll go and put it here, change it to email. Username. Okay, password. And password 2. Okay, so now you can see that whatever we type in there will stay in there. So we have the validation taken care of. Now we want to handle the actual submission if it goes through. So if we go back to users.js and we go into where the success is, what we want to do is build an object from these variables that are coming from the form. So let's say var new user, and we're going to set that to an object. And I'm just going to copy this right here. Alright, so that'll be our object. And then what we want to do is insert that using Mongo.js. So we're going to say db.users.insert. And here we're going to pass in that new user object and then a function. Okay, that function will say error and doc. We'll check for the error. If there is an error, then we're just going to say res.send. We're going to stop everything and send that error. Okay, if there's not, then let's do a console.log. We'll say adding user. Or actually, let's say user added. Okay. And then we're going to send a flash message, a success message. So we'll say request.flash. It's going to be a success message, and then the text. Okay, and then finally we want to redirect. So to do that, we can say res.location slash and res.redirect slash. All right, let's go ahead and save that, and let's try to register. Okay, sign up, and we get redirected to the index, which is what we want. Now, there's no way within our application yet to tell if that actually worked, so I'm going to pull up my MongoDB console in a command line. So I'm going to go to my MongoDB directory /bin, and then we'll run Mongo. And let's say show DBs, and you can see we have a DB called Passport app, so I'm going to use that. Oh, did I spell that right? Passport app. And then let's do DB. Actually, we'll do show collections, and you can see we have a users collection, so now we'll say db.users.find, and there it is. Okay, so we know that our app is now registering users to our database. Now there is a problem here, and that's that the password is plain text. Okay, you never want to store plain text passwords, so we're going to use bcrypt to encrypt that. All right, and we're going to do that in the next video.